Good morning, sir, and to all the participants present in this session. I am Anika Sharma. I am recently working as external manager, content and editorial board with Amicus Curiae. I am your moderator for today's session. So now I would like to invite Mr. Rupam Banerjee, who is the founder of the organization Amicus Curiae, to introduce sir to you all. Rupam sir, can you please just introduce?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you, Anika. Firstly, good morning, everyone present here. Firstly, I want to wish a happy Republic Day to the participants as well as to the speaker present here. I'd go with the welcoming note. Firstly, I want to welcome our chief guest today, Justice KG Balakrishnan, sir. Sir was an advocate and he pleaded both in civil and criminal cases in Ernakulam Court in Kerala. He was later appointed as a Munsif in Kerala Judicial Services in 1973. He later resigned from the services and resumed the practice as an advocate in Kerala High Court. In 1985, he was appointed as a judge in the High Court of Kerala and was transferred to Gujarat High Court in 1997. He became the Chief Justice of Gujarat High Court in 1998, and in 1999 he assumed the charges as the Chief Justice of High Court of Madras. While being the Chief Justice of Gujarat High Court, he also discharged the duties of the Governor of Gujarat for about 2 months, and also as a member of the General Council of Gujarat National Law University. In 2008, he was appointed as a judge in the Supreme Court of India. He was later sworn in as the Chief Justice of India on 14 January 2007 by the then President of India, APJ Abdul Kalam sir. Serving since 7 June 2010 as the Chairman of National Human Rights Commission. Now I want to introduce our speaker for today, Honorable Justice S.N. Dhingra sir. Justice S.N. Dhingra sir has joined as an advocate in February 1976. He practiced in lower courts and Delhi High Courts in company matters, criminal matters, labor and civil matters. He was edited on Matrimonial Law Reporter from 1977 to 1987. Later, sir became an advocate on record of Supreme Court in 1984. He worked as a part-time lecturer in Law Center 2, Delhi University from 1985 to 1987. Later, sir joined as an additional district and session judge on January 6, 1998. Later, sir worked in matrimonial courts, designated Tada Court, Special 1984 Rights Court, Appellate Court, and MCD Rent Control Tribunal, and special courts under Pota. Later, sir worked as a district and a session judge from Delhi from February 24, 2005 to February 27, 2006. He was later elevated as a bench of Delhi High Court judges on 28 February 2006. Now, without wasting much of our time, I'd like to ask Honorable Justice KG Balakrishnan sir to please throw some light on today's topic, rule of law and Supreme Court of India. Over to you, sir.
The participants of Amicus Curiae and Justice Z.N. Dhingra and dear students, I am very happy that in this pandemic time, the students are actively participating in various seminars and getting themselves energized in their academic field. It is a good thing. We are using the time in the best way. And there are not only these Amicus Curiae, there are three, four other, I have associated with 3-4 other these web seminars. They are also doing excellently well. Choose the best subject and invite distinguished people in the in law and they are taking classes, making speeches, then question and answers, and all these are very, very entertaining. And when the classrooms are closed, this is the only way which we can get ourselves more and more educated on in the field of law. And today's subject, the rule of law, is very, very important, very, very basic doctrine which we all know. The rule of law. We remember the names of very distinguished people, the Dicey, the Wade. This is basically a principle in the administrative law. The rule of law. First, when we hear the rule of law, we remember the Chief Justice Coke, who told the James I, the ruler of England, that you are above the law and you are not above the law. The king is under the law and God. Edward Coke told the James I. So that is when we talk of the basic, the rule of law, we remember the Chief Justice Coke. Later, the Dicey, the English jurist who published the book, The Law and the Constitution, when he explained what is rule of law. That book was published in 1885. The rule of is, and that is the fundamental principles of English law, English administrative law. The Dicey explained the rule of law. That is the supremacy of law. Basically, it is a principle of supremacy of law and equality before law and the predominance of legal spirit. These are the three basic things the Dicey wanted to explain. The supremacy of law, equality before law, and predominance of legal spirit. The law, the absolute supremacy or predominance of law is opposed to influence or the arbitrariness or discretionary powers. You know, some of the executive authorities are vested with the discretionary powers. Discretionary powers, they can, to what extent they can go, to what extent they can make a decision. The discretionary powers are also misused in the administrative decision-making process by the executive authority. So to remove the arbitrariness and also we cannot say that the discretion shall be abolished or there cannot be. Of course, there should be discretion. The law cannot be absolute in all in any form. So, but the discretion should be limited. But arbitrariness in the decision-making process, there shall not be any arbitrariness. And our principle, these basic principles we have strictly followed when codifying our constitution. All these principles are taken well under the Indian constitution. The Dicey's rule of law is fully adopted and elaborated in our constitution. Equality principles, Article 14, Article 20, Article 21, 15, 16, all are the Article 19. These basic principles of administrative law is very much included in the justice, liberty, equality, all made supreme in our not only very important thing is the doctrine of judicial review. We have doctrine of judicial review of administrative action. The administrative action is arbitrary, illegal, and not in accordance with the procedure established by law, or if it is violative of the natural justice, violative of the basic principles, and it could be challenged under judicial review. That power also is given to the superior courts in India. That is the Indian constitution conferred on the superior court the power of judicial review. And we have also stated that all these principles are in some form of or other is in our constitution. The Article 13, any law which is made contrary to the fundamental rights is void. That is also in the constitution. So we cannot forget the basic principles, the rule of law included in the constitution as fundamental rights cannot be ignored at all. Any law made by any state or legislature opposed to the fundamental rights is void ab initio. So that cannot be enforced at all. The article. So and most important, Article 21. No one, no, no citizen, no subject shall be deprived of his life or liberty, except according to the procedure established by law. And Article 21, as you know, has been very, very wide interpretation by the Supreme Court of India. Earlier, there was one decision, the G.K. Gopal's case, that has been changed or modified to a great extent by Maneka Gandhi's case. So the basic principles, Article 21 itself has been given right to life. Now the right to life has been further expanded in the recent, the right to privacy, right to education, right to employment, right to food. Everything is part of the article, the right to life. That is the interpretation that has been given. So the Indian Constitution, the rule of law is in its magnificent form in the Indian Constitution. That we must, the rule of law is not fully accepted in all the countries. In England also, it is not fully accepted. In they don't have the judicial review of all matters. But we can quickly state that what basically is the rule of law. One English jurist, Davis, has stated the 7 principles meaning of the term rule of law. 1, law and order. Law and order is one basic principles of rule of law. Then fixed rules. We cannot change the rules one day looking at the face of the person. So the fixed rules. The elimination of discrimination, discretion. Elimination of discretion. That is that is one thing which we have to. Discretion should be there, but we cannot completely eliminate discretion. But discretion, even the matter of sentence, as you know, in the criminal case, ranging from 2 to 5 years or 7 to 10 years, or either life the life conviction or the death penalty. All these are discretion given to the court. So we cannot fully eliminate discretion, but the elimination to a great extent so that it is likely to be misused or abused, then such discretion should not be. Then due process of law or fairness. There should be a procedure established by law in taking action, in taking administrative decision. There should be a procedure established by law, not by the whims and fancies of the decision-making authority. They took we took a decision because they should, a road should be this much of worth, here should be this much of worth, or they should be removed from or the so and so should be appointed. All these the hundreds of decisions are taken by the administrative authorities in a day. That is part of the administration. While taking such decisions, the due process of law should be there must be a process. In the matter of appointment of a professor or a lecturer in the Delhi University, there should be a procedure established. What are the qualifications? What is the method of recruitment? How the persons could be selected? What should be the body which select such appointments? So there should be a procedure laid down for that. And in that procedure, not only is a procedure, it should be a fair procedure. Fairness should be at large in these such matters. Then observance of the principle of natural justice. Observance of principles of natural justice. Natural justice, as you know, natural justice in various forms, but the basic thing, a person affected should be heard. He should be given an opportunity of being heard. That is one of the basic principles of natural justice. So this is also part of the rule of law, that observance of the principles of natural justice. Natural justice should be there to the decision-making authorities. They should follow the natural justice. Main natural, there are so many other, the extent of, suppose 100, the interview is there just for 1 second. It is not in accordance with natural justice. A person who is affected is an adverse decision is taken against him, but he was not here, he was not heard, no, he nor his agent, or no notice was served on him. That is violating of natural justice. This is also one of the principles of the rule of law. Then it is also said that in the decision making or the preference for judges rather than executive authorities or administrative tribunals. That is also now considered to be a rule of law. The preference should be given to the judges in the some decision-making authorities should be in a not like the administrative tribunals, but now the tribunalization is in the so many fields. We cannot simply say that this is against rule of law. It should be there because all forms are, some of the tribunals members are experts in their field. So then lastly, the 7th rule is judicial review of administrative action. We accepted that judicial review of administrative action we accepted. That is the main, these are Article 26 of the Constitution and Article 32 of the Constitution. The administrative action, if it is violating the fundamental rights of a citizen, he can directly approach the Supreme Court of India under Article 32 of the Constitution. It's a very, very, very valuable right given to a citizen. It is no other country has given to the citizens the right to approach the highest court in the land. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the land. That is and to such a court, and a person can directly, one American citizen cannot file an application before the Supreme Court of America for any matter. That what federal matters, that too very limited matters are heard. Whereas under Article 32 of the Constitution, the person can approach if his rights, valuable fundamental rights are violative of the. This is a large. These are all some of the. India is a country which follows the rule of law strictly in all the administrative authorities. They are taking several decisions, political decisions, administrative, economic matters, social matters, and all. They are taking several decisions. They are all subject to judicial review, and that too in accordance with the other. We have explained in there are several decisions of the Supreme Court also. I may also make a reference to some of the decisions, some of the, we can, for students, in Chief Settlement Commissioner versus Om Prakash, 1969, Supreme Court 33, the law, the rule of law has been explained. The concept of rule of law has been explained in this. Another decision, important decision, which requires the one basic thing is the ADM Jabalpur's case. All of you know, in 1975, June 25th, 1975, emergency was declared in India, and by on 26, on the next day, by a presidential order, the important Article 14, 21, 22 of the Constitution of India was suspended by a presidential order. Then thereafter, large number of petitions were filed in various. When several persons, the Maintenance of Internal Security Act was enforced, and several persons were taken into custody. And some of all these who are in jail, some of them filed writ petitions before the various high courts in India. So then it was argued on behalf of the Union of India that there is no remedy for those who have been taken into custody, because they can challenge the habeas corpus, they file the habeas corpus petition based on the right conferred under Article 21 of the Constitution. Article 21 is suspended for the time being, so they have no right to come to approach the court. Such a preliminary objection was raised. And you must notice, many of the high courts in India, they held that the preliminary objection is not sustainable, and they allowed the petition to be heard. And one of the preliminary objection, when it was allowed, that was challenged in the Supreme Court. That was the decision of the ADM of Jabalpur that is challenged in the Supreme Court. Then the Supreme Court, while majority of I don't want to say the names of the judges, majority of the judges for this, they said our Constitution is the mandate. It is rule of law, cannot in any other form can be applied except according to the provisions of the Constitution of India. That Constitution, we have got Constitution, that is the final word. There cannot be any pre or post Constitution law. Article 21 is the rule of law for life and liberty. No other rule of law would apply. So the Article 21 is suspended. So the habeas corpus petition is not sustainable and not maintainable. That is the ADN Jabalpur's case decision of the Supreme Court. But the most important aspect to be remembered is the dissenting judgment of H.R. Khanna. Justice H.R. Khanna, they made a dissenting judgment. In that judgment, you have to trace the principles of administrative law, principles of rule of law. Rule of law, he explained the rule of law. He said rule of law is the antithesis of arbitrariness, and no one shall be deprived of his life and liberty. It is not a gift of the Constitution. He said the life and nobody shall be arrested. His life and liberty could be killed. It is not the gift of it. That right was in existence. It existed and was in force for our community for centuries. And even in the absence of Article 21, state has no power to deprive a person of life and liberty without the authority of law. That was the powerful dissenting note of Justice H.R. Khanna. So those who study about the rule of law must pay attention to all these things. I am sure Justice Dhingra will explain all these things in the right and honest way. To explain as if he was a teacher. So I had never been a teacher. So I am sure. So we see the principles of the rule of law in the separation of powers, executive, parliament, and judiciary. Separate the contours of powers of the constitutional authorities have been laid down in our Constitution. That is also following the principles of rule of law. I hope I have reasonably explained the principles of natural justice in the basic principles of natural justice. I hope that is sufficient to present the subject for the time being. So I hope if at the end of this session, if there are any questions on the part of the students, I will prepare to explain it anything in short. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I would like to invite Justice S.N. Dhingra, our speaker for today's webinar, to appraise you with the concept of rule of law. So please.
Thank you. See, today we are celebrating 72nd in Republic Day of India, and I wish to congratulate everyone on this auspicious day. See, theoretically and constitutionally, ours is a nation governed by rules, and rule of law is embedded in our constitution. It has been very beautifully explained by our ex-Chief Justice, Justice Balakrishnan, that how rule of law is ingrained in our constitution and is to be upheld. See, the term rule of law carries a very wide meaning, and it involves a number of concepts. Rule of law is considered foundation of a democracy, as democracy acknowledges that nobody is above law. The king and the pauper are to be treated equally before the eyes of law. Our topic today is rule of law and Supreme Court. So I will concentrate whether this concept of rule of law, that king and pauper are to be treated equally before law, is honored or given any importance by our Supreme Court. Now, I think nobody knows better than Justice Balakrishnan that how our Supreme Court functions. He was talking of ADM Jabalpur case. In ADM Jabalpur case, see, the one thing which is not told is that the then Chief Justice is who were all in line for being elevated to Supreme Court as per their date of birth. He did not pick up 5 senior most judges for deciding this. He picked up only those 5 judges who at one point of time would in their turn become Chief Justice of Supreme Court. So there was this sword hanging that if you decide against the government, you will not be Chief Justice. And the ADM Jabalpur judgment, when it came, see, it was not surprising for many. Because in those days, collegium system was not there, and the appointment of Chief Justice, next Chief Justice, was being done by the President in consultation with the existing Chief Justice by the President. And all the 5 judges were put on the bench were those who at one or other point of time were to become Chief Justice. And the decision was obvious, except Justice H.R. Khanna, who was prepared to pay the price of his being not falling in the line. Everyone gave judgment in favor of the government and said that once Article 21 is suspended, the citizens of this country have no right to life. This was a surprising decision, and this is the concept of basic concept of rule of law, that you have right to life irrespective whether there is a constitution or no, was forgotten by the very institution who was supposed to protect the constitution as well as the life of state. Justice Khanna, as you know, had to pay the price. He was superseded at the time of his elevation to Chief Justice. And this is a history which is well taught to the students. But this fact that they were the persons, the judges were those who on the bench were those judges who were in line for being elevation. in line of elevation or respect is not told. So now let us see, that is past. That was days of emergency. We were, you see, everybody was under a fear, a threat. Let me assume that judiciary was also under a fear. But there were many brave people who had opted to go to jail and remain in jail instead of going to the authority. Now, let us consider today. What is the scene today? Are the people, common man, has access to Supreme Court? It is a far-fetched thing that the common man has right to go to Supreme Court. But whether the common man have access to Supreme Court? What is the mode of accessing Supreme Court? You have to engage an advocate on record, and then you have to engage a senior advocate. What is the average income of common man in India? A common man in India, let us assume, take the highest number, say earns 25,000 per month. What is the average fee of an advocate on record? And what is the average fee of a senior advocate for one appearance in Supreme Court? See, no senior advocate in Supreme Court appears for less than 1 lakh rupees. I'm giving you a very low figure. Normal fee range is from 1 lakh to 21 lakh or 25 lakh, depending upon your face value, how dashing advocate you are, and how aggressive advocate you are. Can common man dream that if his fundamental right is breached, can go to Supreme Court? The doors of Supreme Court are shut for him. Not because Supreme Court would refuse to or say that, oh, you are a poor man, please don't come to me. You go to trial court, you go to high court. But practically, this is what Supreme Court, by its working and by not framing any rules of reading the fee structure of the advocate, has come down. You cannot go to house of a Supreme Court judge and argue your application if your right to life or liberty has been encroached upon and you have been picked up by administration in the midnight without any reason, if you are a poor man. But if you are powerful and rich, you will go, and not only you will go, you are able to go to Supreme Court judge's house, you are able to get relief. How this happens? Now, rule of law requires that there should be a procedure. This is what Justice Balakrishnan has enumerated, that there should be a procedure and administration must follow that procedure. So the court administration is also an administration. And Supreme Court administration must put an example before other administrations that, look, this is how rule of law is followed. Has the Supreme Court administration put an example before other administrations that, look, this is a rule of law means everybody is equal. You cannot entertain somebody because he has engaged Kapil Sibal or Pinaki Mishra or Dave or so XYZ senior advocate, and you can come to my house or you can go to registry, get a case registered at 12 midnight and seek justice, because justice is to be dispensed according to a set procedure. So as far as procedure and rule of law is concerned, it is not followed in Supreme Court administration and in listing cases. Now, have you ever thought of that there are 60,000 cases are pending in Supreme Court itself, and few lakhs are pending in high courts. Both the High Court and Supreme Court are courts of record. Every order passed by them is available on record for all times to come. If you do a research on the working of the High Court and Supreme Court, you will find that the regular matters in which people are in jail, their life and liberty is already under shadow. They don't get priority. Who gets priority? If there is a case of MP, if there is a case of MLA, if there is a case of big businessman, if there is a case of any opposition leader, or a case of government leader, all of them get priority in hearing before Supreme Court. You see, when Constitution was made, it was assured to the people that Rani and Mehrani will be equal before courts of law. But unfortunately, Mehrani is where she was already, and Rani is also enjoying the same priorities, same powers which she was already enjoying. So, what difference it made to the common man's life and to assess to the courts as far as the poor and the common man is concerned? You can say that Supreme Court is hearing PILs, and anybody can write letter to Supreme Court and get justice. Please try writing a letter to Supreme Court and get justice in your individual case. It is not possible. PILs are now public interest litigations. They are not public interest litigation. They are publicity interest litigations. They are personal interest litigation. They may be anything, but they are not public interest litigation. So when we talk of rule of law and Supreme Court must have presented an example that we will treat everybody equal before us, and we are not going to give any precedent to anybody, whosoever you are. Supreme Court has given rhetorics. Howsoever high you are, the law is above you. But you come, see, the other thing about Supreme Court is, you show me the face and I will show you the law. So and I'm not talking in here, I can give you hundreds of examples where the Supreme Court has violated the basic spirit of rule of law. Now, what constitutes this Constitution? You see, the preamble of Constitution states that this Constitution is given by people of this country to themselves. Does the people of country means a few top-ranking politicians, officials, powerful persons, few powerful dharmic gurus, few persons who are rich enough to buy time of the courts by engaging highly paid advocates. People of India are the people who make this country survive. They are the persons who work at streets. They are the persons who are poor, who can hardly afford to run their lives, families, and cannot educate their children properly. Now we have given right of education to the children up to some certain age. And in this right of education, we have given them that they have right to go to school and they should be admitted to school. There is no fees. They will be given meals. Good. But what is the standard of that education, which we have given right of education to the children? In those schools where these children are admitted, after passing 8th class or 9th class, they are not even able to read a common book. They do not know simple multiplications and additions. Now, what is the fate of rich? They go to best public schools where one child expense per month is more than 1 lakh. The same is fate as in education, same is fate in judiciary. See, the poor man cannot afford the courts, and the rich man has seized the courts. You read into newspapers, you read the judgments which are passed, you read the way the court functions. You see, a case is considered important on the ground who is involved. A case is not considered important on the ground if the man is in jail for many years. It may be that he has been wrongly convicted, and there are many judgments where after spending 10 years or 15 years in jail, Supreme Court announces, you are set free, you have committed no crime. Can anybody return those 15 years of life? What compensation you can give to man whom you kept waiting for 15 years for getting justice because you had no time? Your time is occupied by fat fee cases. So that is how there is no rule of law followed by Supreme Court. Howsoever Supreme Court may cry that this is a country governed by rule of law, it may issue rhetorics, but you go to Supreme Court and you feel it. While practicing in Supreme Court from 84 to 88, had felt that poor man has no say in Supreme Court. And it is only court of rich, influential and powerful persons. See, gradually the high courts are also turning in the same line. We are averse to judicial reforms. I do not know why, but for the last 72 years, what judicial reforms have taken place in our country? Let us see whether the Supreme Court has framed rules of its business, that to what cases I will give priority. There are no rules of business in Supreme Court as to how to prioritize the case. It depends upon the whims and fancies of every judge, that he will say, please fix that case to me. And if the cases are not fixed, according to those whims and fancies, judges can hold press conference and say that, look, Chief Justice is not fixing cases to our bench. He is fixing cases to different bench. All right. You were also Chief Justice at some point of time in some High Court. Did you make rules that what cases will be fixed before which bench? Are we having specialized benches? Why a bench need to hear arguments on one simple point for days together? It is because you fix benches of judges who may be novice in the field of law in which they are hearing the argument. If a person is expert in tax law and he is put on the criminal bench, you will have to argue one simple point before him for days together to make him understand what is the difference between section 161 CRPC and 164 CRPC, how 161, 162 and 164 CRPC statements are admissible, how they are not admissible, under what circumstances they are admissible, and he will keep on hearing because he is learning from you. And if he already knows, he will tell the advocate, you please stop arguing on these points because this distinction is known to me. Come on the facts. Come on merits. This is the point involved in your appeal. Please tell me how this appeal or how this case stands before Supreme Court. We have not evolved a system by which we can have specialized benches. We don't have fixed constitutional benches. Although tenure in the Supreme Court is up to the age of 65, but still we can have rule that 5 senior most judges will constitute constitution bench. We can have rules that those judges who had this much experience in criminal side shall be appointed on the criminal bench side. And this bench will not be disturbed throughout the tenure of the judge in the Supreme Court. So that there is no bench hopping. Today, bench hopping takes place. Supreme Court advocates know that this bench is there only for 3 months. I will get the case adjourned and get it fixed before the next bench. What is the rule of law in mentioning the cases and getting the cases fixed out of turn? You mention the case, you get your case fixed out of turn. It is a pure discretion of the judge to feel whether this case is urgent or not, this case requires urgent hearing or not. What are those criteria fixed by Supreme Court in terming the cases, what are urgent cases, which are non-urgent cases, which are the cases which are to be heard out of turn? No. And Supreme Court keeps giving lecture to administration that how discretion should be applied, how you should not discriminate while defying this basic principle of discrimination in its own parlance. See, we have rules regarding senior advocate and non-senior advocate. On what basis you appoint senior advocate? Why every advocate should not be equal before Supreme Court? When you have a system of advocate on record that file cases, he knows, he is a person who knows the procedure of filing cases. Why you make this distinction between two advocates? A junior advocate may be more talented, he may be more sincere, he will be having less number of briefs with him and would be able to devote more time to each brief than the senior advocate who will appear before the court and say, my number is coming in next bench and so I will come, please pass over. Is this not discrimination between two advocates who can be equally talented and who can be equally good in argument, but you have designated one as senior, other as non-senior? This senior and non-senior advocates, we have taken this from our imperial rulers, where they used to designate Queen's Bench and King's Bench advocates and senior advocates and all those. Why we have not changed in this country the judicial system as per the aspiration of the people of this country? 72 years is not a small time. We, the advocate and judges of this country, work in a tropical country. It is a tropical region country where temperature goes up to 48 degrees centigrade. And we have made our uniform, this dress code, that you have to wear black coat, howsoever high temperature it may be. Look at the fate of poor advocates in the trial courts. Half of their courts, half of them have courts which have lines of sweat on the courts. White lines are apparent that you see the person has been sweating throughout the day because he has to wear coat. It is easy to give lectures to others. And that is what the easiest thing is being done by Supreme Court, day in and day out. Instead of putting example that, look, you see, our Supreme Court is lauded not for doing justice to the common man. It is lauded because it passes judgments which pleases press, which pleases our media, and which pleases few elite. So the rule of law, see the other rule of law which Justice Balakrishnan had enumerated, the law is supreme and law is fixed. The rules do not change. You see, the changing of law is my haath ka khel for our Supreme Court and High Courts. It is not necessary that the one bench will follow the law laid down by other bench. And it is also not necessary that the bench will refer it to the larger bench. They will just simply bypass. Perhaps 2 days before, you must have read a judgment of Gujarat High Court or some High Court, a lady judge, who said for molestation, for a case under PASCO, there has to be skin to skin contact. I do not know what manner the law can be interpreted to rape the law itself. You cannot molest a woman unless you take her clothes off, and take your clothes also off and make skin to skin contact. This is how laws are interpreted, and laws are changed. And you show me the face, I will show you the law.
Hello. Thank you.
So, this is
Okay.
All-
Okay, most welcome. Sir?
the one aspect of rule of law is arbitrariness. There should be no arbitrariness. I have shown you that the arbitrary manner in which the Supreme Court functions in listing the cases, in giving priorities, in hearing the cases at home, in midnight, or at any odd time, odd hours of the day. Now, discretion and power abuse. This is one of the aspects of rule of law, that no discretion should be abused. Every discretion must be applied judicially. This discretion is available to courts to do justice. And this discretion is available to courts in doing justice so that, see, justice can be done. And Article 142 also gives its discretion to the courts in doing justice. Other day I was reading a case, order of the Supreme Court, that the trial court and the High Court cannot use bail for recovery and cannot put a condition that this amount be deposited, then you will get bail. Even now, there are many people inside jail due to Supreme Court order that unless you deposit this much money, you will not be set free. Even today. So bail has been denied only because the person had not been able to deposit the money which he played fraud. There's no doubt. He played fraud. But this is the same. This is what trial court and High Court was doing. That you have played fraud, you have cheated person, deposit this money and get bail. No, you are wrong. But when we do the same thing, we are right. Equality is one of the facets of rule of law. I've already dealt with this. But this is the least known facet of rule of law to the Supreme Court. Theoretically, Supreme Court may keep saying that everybody is equal before law. But practically, everybody is not equal before law, equal before Supreme Court and High Court. If, as Justice Balakrishnan was saying, that here citizens have got right to go directly to Supreme Court. Now you can buy time of Supreme Court and High Court. I am saying buy time of Supreme Court and High Court, judicial time, by engaging advocate who have face value in Supreme Court, howsoever small your case may be, howsoever unmeritorious your case may be, you will get hearing in Supreme Court if you have engaged an advocate who is heard there. And that advocate has value. So you have to pay to the advocate to be heard in Supreme Court, even if you have no merit. And even if you have merit in your matter, but you have no money, you cannot approach Supreme Court. So how is everybody equal? Now, what rules did Supreme Court make to ensure that the poor and the common man can also assess Supreme Court or High Court, or I say even the trial court? Today, assessing the trial court has become very difficult for common man. You see, the minimum fee which trial court advocates charge is rupees 11,000 to or 15,000 per hearing. And this is the average monthly income of a poor man. He has only two options, either to fight the case or to keep his family surviving. Obviously, the second option is not available. So he will go only for survival of his family. Where is equality? Where is fairness? Rule of law requires fairness. What kind of fairness is this? That your doors are open only for few, rich, powerful person. So it is easy to say that we are a country following rule of law. Now, if you see, look at the entire administration. If a common man, poor person, wants to get an FIR registered in a police station, his FIR will not be registered, howsoever serious a case may be. If daughter has been kidnapped, the police will tell him that you please search for her. She will come back. He may name the kidnapper, they will say sorry. I'm talking of serious crime like kidnapping. If you go for lodging a case of theft, pickpocketing, looting on the roadside, no FIR is registered. But if you are a rich man, if you are influential, even if your dog is lost or your bhais is lost, FIR is registered and the entire police goes in search of your dog or parrot or buffalo. Same is in Supreme Court. There is no difference between Supreme Court and a police station FIR for poor man. Even if your son has been picked up by police without any reason, and if you are poor, you cannot go to Supreme Court. Who says you can approach Supreme Court? But if you are a VIP, if you are VVVIP, if you are a rich man, and if police has even legitimately arrested you, after you have committed crime, you will go to Supreme Court directly, even if it is midnight. So, what is the difference? between Supreme Court and bureaucracy. There is no difference. We are a country in which we have paid lip service to rule of law. But really, in reality, rule of law does not exist. It is, if you jiski lathi uski bhais. Instead, I'll say the one who has money has law on its side. So I won't take much of the time, but this is, you see, and I am, whatever I have stated with full responsibility. I can give n number of cases where I can show that this is what happens. Thank you all.
So now can we take up the questions?
Obviously.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
So there's one question in the chat box. That is it vulnerable, the rule of law, good governance and administration of justice in India?
See, it doesn't depend upon the law book. If you think that by writing a very bulky and good constitution, we have given unto ourselves everything written there, you are under a mistake. It needs good human beings, good persons to bring rule of law in this country. It needs persons who can win themselves at least first and then preach. It is, if we have persons who are in higher places of administration and justice, if they determine that yes, the common man, the poor man matters, and we have concern for that, hell with this rich and powerful people, that day we will have entire administration and justice system online. So long as we have greedy, selfish, money-minded people anywhere, in any institution, this is not going to happen. And unfortunately, we have majority of them now. If they were in minority, the institutions would have been much better, all institutions. But gradually, our moral values are going down. We are not considering men equal. We are still living in Samantwad era, where, see, Lat Sahab used to be there, Rai Bahadur used to be there, Rai Sahab used to be there. Today, if earlier there were 565 kings, today there are more than 5,000 kings and kingdoms. Each Supreme Court judge is a king, each High Court judge is a king, each MP is a king, each MLA is a king. They have special facilities, they have special advantages. Tomorrow make a rule that every bureaucrat, every judge, every person who is in government will take facilities only from government hospitals. He will not be entitled for service facilities from private hospitals, private schools. All these hospitals, schools will start functioning in a very good manner. You have given them an option. You can go to America, Italy. You can go to Britain for your treatment and the government bears expenses if you are a minister, if you are an MP. But for poor man, there is municipal corporation hospital where even medicines are not there, doctors are not there, nurses are not there.
Thank you very much, sir. So another question is, what as budding lawyers, the steps we can take in order to make the system is collapsing with all these glitches. So what we can do?
Make yourself a good human being. Before making yourself a liar, feel the nerve of this nation. Feel how poor man survives. What difficulties he has to face when he comes to court. How you can help him. Make profession as a service-oriented profession. If the profession becomes a service-oriented profession, and you determine that I will serve the people, I will not run behind money. Money will of course come to you, but then you will be able to justice to the common man. You will be able to fight for him without charging much, right from trial court to Supreme Court. Maybe even if Supreme Court judges don't hear you, someday you will make your voice audible there. Like Bhagat Singh, you can do that you have to hear me.
Now I would like Justice Balakrishnan sir to answer this question, that what could be the judicial reforms in order to solve the issue of numerous pending cases?
It is difficult to suggest any reform because there are, because of the pandemic situation, there are large number of cases pending in the trial courts, in the high courts, and in the Supreme Court. There is no magic formula, but more and more courts should be established, and we should work hard. That is the only way. As Mr. Dhingra pointed out, the judges should be identified who are the expert in the field, and the benches should be constituted like that. And those who are experts in the criminal or civil on tax matters or labor laws or service matters, they should be, they shall not waste time and grasp the thing quickly and take a decision instead of writing these lengthy judgments. They give a quick decision and solve the problem, and the party should feel that they got some justice. That is the only way. I don't think any. It is this will last for years. At least 4 or 5 years will take to solve the present situation which has now been created. Now happened. Nobody can be faulted for that, but it so happened.
If I have suggestion on this. You see, one is specialization, as I said. This specialization of courts must start from the trial court itself. In the trial court, we should have judges who are specialized in branch. They should be trained. If you are giving criminal court to some judge, please train him in criminal court for at least 1 or 2 years. Then put him on the criminal court bench. Thereafter, ensure that he remains on criminal side. Make him learn other laws, but ensure that he serves on the criminal side. Ensure that he, after serving for few years on trial court, he goes to high court and holds criminal bench. Ensure that after holding in high court criminal bench, he goes to Supreme Court and holds criminal bench. Today, what you are doing? You are picking up an advocate from taxation, putting him on criminal bench or on civil bench. He doesn't know ABC of CPC and CRPC. His entire practice has been on criminal tax side, where no law is involved. You know how taxation cases are done. They are cases fixed before Commissioner of Income Tax. And it is there that I have seen. Taxation lawyers are also elevated to the bench. Now, service lawyer. You have a service lawyer who has always done service matter in High Court. You appoint him as a High Court judge and you give him a criminal bench. There are lawyers who have never seen the face of criminal court. They do civil work, and after appointed, now the difficulty is when you pick up bench judges out of the bar and you place them in the same bench, you are afraid that he will face his friends. because he has many friends in the bar. So how he will deny relief to his friends? That is why you put him in different bench. And you try that he should be impartial. He will be impartial, no doubt. Don't appoint him as a judge if you are not sure that he will be impartial. If you are sure that he is a good person to be appointed as judge, don't doubt his integrity. That if he is put in that bench, he will not be impartial. Perhaps he may be more impartial there. And then give him the bench in which he is expert. And please change some method, this mode of recruitment of High Court judges and Supreme Court judges. Why should you have 66% out of the bar? At least have, you see, All India Judicial Service, where you can have All India talent at the different level, put them in High Court and Supreme Court at appropriate time. See, you want rules to be there for appointment in every field of bureaucracy. You don't want rules to be there for appointment of judges. You say judges will be picked up out of bar by as per likeliness, liking of the collegium. In collegium, where I don't want to comment on collegium system, the way collegium system works, lot has been said. So why you not prepared to change? And the biggest hurdle in judicial reforms is bar and the bench, not the state. Advocates do not want the law to be reformed, to be made simplified. You can provide technical forms for simple cases. That the petty cases will be, there will be no pleading, no this. This is a form you have to fill. If you have to recover up to 1 lakh, here is a form, fill, give bare minimum facts, and the notice is served. And it is not that this is not being done. This has been adopted in several countries where they have simplified the procedure. See, CPC says that in the plaint and WS, no law will be pleaded. Only facts will be pleaded. Simple facts. Pick up any plaint of any court in India. It is not less than 50 pages. And 45 pages are law. That this is what this court said, this is what, this is evidence, this is a law. And you pick up a writ petition of High Court or Supreme Court, it is 300 pages. They don't plead facts. They don't want judges to read, because they know it is difficult to read 300 pages. So they will argue. If you have 10 petitions, 300 pages, 10 into 300 means 3000 pages. How much time you get for reading? 2 hours, 3 hours in the evening, after court hours. So who will read? Nobody reads. They depend upon the advocate. So advocate will tell you what I have written, what I want. You will not throw the petitions. If you start throwing, if judges start throwing these petitions out of the court saying that I want brief 10 page, tomorrow the whole bar will follow it. But today we are not prepared. There is a great brotherhood between judges and advocates. As it looks as if these courts exist only for judges and advocates. Litigant is, you see, nowhere important. Let litigant be important, not the advocates. That you see, see, these courts must not exist only for providing business to advocates and job to judges. They must exist for providing justice to the common man.
Thank you very much, sir. Justice Balakrishnan, sir, there is a student who wants to know your views on the latest judgment of Justice Pushpa Gandhiwala on skin-to-skin touch with sexual assault that was recently by Bombay High Court.
Sorry, I will not pass any comments on the. Since there's a matter to be taken to the higher courts, then it is not proper for me to make comments.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, this is a question to both of you. You can present your views on this question. That the domicile reservation, is it according to the rule of law?
Sometimes the domicile reservation requires but the justification depends on the facts of the situation. So we cannot say that it is illegal or is against the rule of law. It is not possible to comment on that. Domicile reservation is sometimes required. Suppose in a poor country where the group of people are staying and they all education institution or employment are all occupied by other neighboring state, and domicile reservation is required in that state. So we cannot, it all depends on the facts. We cannot completely say that domicile reservation is improper.
Thank you, sir. Justice Dhingra, can you please present your views on this question?
See, domicile reservation is also done after making rules and laws. If the rules and laws are unconstitutional, you can challenge it in the court that this is not as per constitution. But if the rule is constitutional and it has been framed by the parliament or by the legislature and it has stood the test of constitution, anything done according to this rule would be as per rule of law.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, I do not find any more questions in the chat box. So we are here towards the end of this session. So I would like Mr. Rupam Banerjee to present a vote of thanks on behalf of the amicus curiae.
Am I audible, Anika?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the honor, Anika. The amicus curiae family is really obliged. Just a second, sir. The amicus curiae family is really obliged to have you both here with us on a special occasion of celebrating the 72nd Republic Day of India, and spending your time with the budding lawyers of the amicus curiae, and also thanking you, sir, for sparing your valuable time to engage with the law students on a very important topic, rule of law and Supreme Court of India. We feel honored to get an understanding of the topic from your experiences and thoughtful ideas. Last but not the least, I'd like to thank the entire team of the amicus curiae for pulling off this national webinar in a successful manner. We also hope to have more such sessions with you both in the near future. I once again thank you for your time today, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. And I would like all the participants to now leave the webinar. And that's all for today.